I've done a deep dive most of the day into this Tulsi Gabbard, the documents that she released. To the extent we have access to those materials, I examine them. That is, stories about them as well. I went back and I looked at the Durham report from 2017. I looked at this new release of this House Intelligence Committee report from 2020 that was released earlier this week, I believe. I went through it all. And let me tell you something. There's one thing that stands out more than anything else. That's not in the Durham report, that's not in the House report, that's not in any report. And that is the role of Barack Obama. This is the key. I want to make this as simple as I can. I can always get into the weeds, but it's best just to step back. Barack Obama was never investigated. Even at a lower threshold, he was never questioned. He wasn't questioned by Durham. He obviously wasn't questioned by the House majority, their committee. He wasn't questioned about what he knew and when he knew it and the actions that he took. The fact of the matter, you got to look at this as a criminal enterprise. Obama was the mob boss. The key meeting was December 16, 2016. Donald Trump was elected president. Their intelligence information indicates that, yes, Russia is trying, in a rather tepid and inconsequential way, to interfere in the election, but it's not effective. They have no evidence whatsoever that Russia is trying to help Donald Trump in any respect. None. But that meeting on December 16th, 2016, is when Obama called together a number of his senior staff, senior appointees in the law enforcement and national security realm, and directed that a new assessment be created. He was not happy with the existing assessment, which said what I just told you. And within less than a month, a new assessment did come back, indicating that Russia was heavily involved in the election on behalf of Donald Trump, which was a lie. A lie. This is important to understand. In addition, Obama was told before that Hillary Clinton and her campaign were going to allege that Russia was involved in the campaign to help Trump for two reasons. Number one, to take the attention off of her emails. And number two, to put Trump on the defensive. So her campaign paid for the Steele dossier. Every report indicates the Steele dossier was a lie. Every syllable in that report was a lie. And you'll notice how the media ran with it. And how for month after month after month after month after month it was used. And the president had to keep saying, or candidate Trump had to keep saying, he had nothing to do with this. But it was the narrative. All these leaks were organized to the New York Times, to the Washington Post, to all these usual suspect phony media sites. All of them. But Barack Obama, who likes to pretend he's above the fray, was right in the middle of it. He was right in the middle of it. Also, as I pointed out early on, not long before the Trump administration took office, Obama signed an executive order to expand significantly the sharing of raw intelligence information with agencies that in the past either couldn't get it or had to make a special request for it. And he did that, as I argued at the time, to help facilitate leaking against Trump. Now, in June or July of 2016, give or take, they also came to the aid of Hillary Clinton. The Department of Justice had a slam dunk case against her in violations of the Espionage Act with her emails. But Comey, who had no authority, announced at that press conference that he was not going to proceed. It wasn't his call, but he did it anyway. Think about that. So while they're helping out Hillary, they're trying to take out Donald Trump. Now, this is your CIA, your FBI, your intelligence agencies and other agencies. It's really shocking what took place here. Shocking. And so when I, on March 3rd, 2017, started putting all this together, it was based on all these leaks. They went to the FISA court 4 times, and the main information they used to get a FISA warrant, to get it the first place and then extend it 3 more times, was the Steele dossier, which Comey knew was false. And yet that's the basis, the core of what they used to get the FISA warrants. Think about that. So they lied to this FISA court, misled it clearly, to get what they wanted. But Obama's never been questioned. Our friend Lindsey Graham and John Cornyn, they're out there talking about the appointment of a special counsel. I can't think of anything more disastrous than the appointment of a special counsel. Why? Because they're not special. But more than that, they take forever, years. And there's no conflict of interest. The reason you appoint a special counsel or a special prosecutor is because there's a conflict of interest within an administration. So say they're investigating President Trump. Well, the argument is that the Attorney General, the DOJ, is under the president, so you need a special counsel. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about investigating former President, private citizen Obama. And the Department of Justice under Donald Trump is quite capable of conducting an investigation where there's not a conflict of interest. But Mark, the left might say, the conflict is they hate Obama. That's not a conflict of interest. The conflict that is addressed through the appointment of a special counsel is the internal conflict where a Department of Justice is said to be unable to independently investigate their boss, the president. That's not the case here. There should be no special counsel. And so when Graham and Cornyn proposed this, that's a black hole. That'll go nowhere. If it goes there, forget it. It'll be another 20 years till you learn anything else. What has to happen here is that Barack Obama needs to be questioned thoroughly, deposed, preferably under oath, so the perjury statute applies. But we all know that the false statement statute, 18 U.S.C. 1001, would apply regardless. About his role, some of the documents that Tulsi Gabbard released should be absolutely used in questioning him, which is why the Democrats are poo-pooing the whole thing. They know where this should go. In addition, Brennan, Clapper, Loretta Lynch, her successor, the acting attorney general, Comey, McCabe, all the usual suspects should be brought back and investigated about Barack Obama's role, about his role. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you're hearing, again, some of these quacks out there, some of these lawyers out there who are telling you that we have a decision on July 1, 2024 from the U.S. Supreme Court on immunity. You've heard that, right, Mr. Producer? And they say, what's the point? He can't prosecute Obama as a private citizen anyway because he will have acted under his official constitutional duties. Now, I don't know why they're illiterate in reading Supreme Court decisions, but I went back and I read that decision today, too. That's not what the majority opinion says. That's not what John Roberts wrote. To put it concisely, he pointed out that there is absolute immunity when a president is acting within his constitutional bounds. Absolute immunity. But when the president acts sort of in the outer circle of his constitutional authority, there is presumptive immunity. Presumptive immunity, which has to be overcome by any prosecutor. And so that case has to be made in front of a judge with the defendant. This case would be Obama if we reach that point, or he would be charged if we reach that point. They would obviously put up the defense of absolute immunity, in this case, which I think would fail, or presumptive immunity, which I also think would fail. Now, what are we talking about? Let me give you an example. And this actually happened. Barack Obama, when he was president, I told you the other day, there was an imam in Northern Virginia, two of the hijackers who slaughtered our people on 9/11, went to that mosque. The imam was a terrorist. He was attached to Al-Qaeda. He fled the country and he went to Yemen. Obama took him out with a missile strike, but in doing so also killed his son, who was 15 years old and a U.S. citizen. Technically, theoretically, I suppose, that family could bring a case, or a case could be brought, a criminal case against Obama. I don't think so, but some people have argued that, but let's just say it's a possibility. That case would fail as a result of the constitutional absolute immunity of a president undertaking his constitutional duties, not on the outer circle, but squarely in the circle. Let's take another case. On December 16, Obama says, I want a reassessment of the intelligence because he doesn't like the fact or the information he got back on Russia the first round. And he gets the kind of report he wants, and he uses that report, and people use that report for the purpose of trying to destroy and undermine an incoming administration. That's not part of his official duties, is it, Mr. Producer? So I think you could overcome the presumptive, that's the key word, immunity, which nobody's talking about. Now they'll all talk about it since I'm talking about it. But none of them have talked about it. They just go, yeah, it's absolute immunity. That's the decision, absolute immunity. Some reporter says it. They regurgitate. It's like whisper down the lane, except they don't whisper. Then they all say the same thing. It's very annoying to me, very frustrating. But hey, what would the crime be? Maybe there isn't a crime. But in the course of an investigation, crimes can be committed. Remember, they call them process crimes: obstruction, false statements, perjury, destruction of document, whatever. So you conduct an investigation. There's no probable cause basis for conducting an investigation. It's just the reasonableness of believing that something awry may have taken place, some crime may have been violated. That's enough to open an investigation under the Department of Justice guidelines, which I also read today. I hope this helps a little bit. So when people say, there's nothing new here, we didn't learn anything here, and besides his immunity, we need a special counsel, it's all BS.